Let's dive right into this explainer and begin a fascinating journey deep into the architecture of our own minds. Imagine, just for a second, coming into direct, working contact with an all-pervading higher intelligence and discovering that it is entirely on your side. It sounds incredible, right? Well, today we're exploring a remarkable system designed to help you do exactly that. We're unlocking the Silva Mind Control Method.
Now, I want you to consider a provocative question. What if the solutions to your absolute biggest problems were hiding just beneath your everyday conscious thoughts? So what does this actually mean for us? It introduces this deeply compelling idea that untapped mental talents, the kind of abilities most people just write off as science fiction or rare genius, are actually available to every single one of us. You see, the premise here isn't about acquiring some new magical skill. It's simply about awakening something incredibly powerful that has been dormant inside you all along.
To really understand how to unlock this, we first need to look at the man who figured it all out, José Silva. And this is where the story gets really interesting, because José wasn't some Ivy League neuroscientist or an academic. Actually, he was an uneducated radio repairman from Laredo, Texas, who had been working since he was 6 years old. His lifelong quest wasn't about seeking fame. It was literally just about trying to improve his children's learning abilities and boost their report cards. By combining his deep, practical knowledge of electronics and radio frequencies with years of intense self-study into psychology, he spent decades building this groundbreaking methodology.
Which brings us to our really natural question. What does it actually mean to use more of your mind, and why is this so important for us to grasp? Well, Silva had a brilliant realization. He noticed that the human brain operates on different frequencies, very much like the dials on the radios he spent his life repairing. He realized that if we can learn to consciously tune this mental dial, we can access entirely different, highly effective modes of thinking, learning, and even healing.
Let's break those frequencies down, starting with the one where you most likely are right now. This is called the beta state. It is our wide-awake outer consciousness. It's the realm of our busy workdays, right? It's where we use logic, where we hustle and achieve things, but it's also where we face everyday stress, fear, and anxiety. The absolutely crucial point to understand here is that while beta is necessary for navigating the physical world, it is definitely not where our deepest problem-solving or creative breakthroughs happen.
Now contrast that waking state with the alpha state. Alpha is a deeper, much slower brainwave frequency. Think about that deeply relaxed, inner consciousness you naturally experience during a really vivid daydream, or maybe those hazy, peaceful moments right before you drift off to sleep at night, or just as you're waking up in the morning. That is alpha. It is a calmer, highly intuitive frequency where physical healing, deep focus, and profound imagination just naturally thrive.
So, you might be asking, why is this so important? I mean, if we all naturally pass through the alpha state every single day, what is the big deal? Well, the answer is simple but profound. Most people just fall asleep when they hit alpha. Their conscious awareness just completely shuts off. The entire purpose, the real genius of the Silva method, is that it trains us to enter this deep, restorative alpha level at will, and more importantly, it trains us to stay fully awake and consciously harness it.
So, how do we actually get there? The technique is remarkably straightforward. It's known as the descent. To reach alpha, you simply sit comfortably, close your eyes, and look slightly upward. Imagine looking at about a 20-degree angle right behind your closed eyelids. For reasons not entirely understood by science, just this simple physical eye position actually triggers the brain to start producing alpha waves. From there, you slowly and calmly count backward from 100 to 1. This steady, rhythmic counting distracts your busy beta mind and gently guides you down into a state of deep, deep relaxation.
And the best part? You don't have to count from 100 forever. Over weeks of practice, your mind literally adapts to this process. It learns the pathway. As you train your brain to recognize this descent, the journey gets shorter and shorter. You graduate to counting from 50 to 1, then 25 to 1, then 10 to 1, until finally you reach a level of mastery. At that point, it only takes counting from 5 down to 1 to instantly drop into a deep, conscious meditative state. It's like mental muscle memory. As you progress even further, you can create even faster shortcuts. Enter the 3 fingers technique. Once you are deeply familiar with the alpha state, you can literally program a physical trigger into your nervous system. By simply pressing your thumb and your first 2 fingers together, you can train your mind to drop into alpha instantly. Imagine how incredibly useful that is. You can use it for immediately enhancing your memory, recalling a name you forgot, or finding deep, unshakable concentration right in the middle of a stressful meeting or an exam.
Okay, so reaching alpha is great, but now we really have to ask, how do we actually solve problems once we reach this deep relaxation? Because reaching alpha is just passive meditation.
Don't get me wrong, it feels amazing and it relieves a ton of stress, but the Silva method is all about dynamic meditation. We want to shift gears from just passively relaxing to taking dynamic, purposeful action. We are moving much deeper into the mind's toolkit now.
The absolute foundation of this dynamic action is a brilliant concept called the mental screen. I want you to imagine a large, vivid movie screen placed about 6 feet directly in front of your closed eyes. It shouldn't entirely fill your field of vision, just sit right there in the center. Think of this as your own private movie theater in your mind. This screen is your workspace. It's where you will project situations, memories, and complex problems so you can objectively examine them and, most importantly, change them.
Here is how fluid and elegant the sequence actually is in practice. First, you vividly recreate whatever problem you're facing right there on your mental screen. You really see it, you feel it. Then, you gently, deliberately push that image off the screen to the right. Finally, you slide a brand new scene in from the left, a vivid, detailed, and joyful image of the positive resolution. You are literally replacing the image of the problem with the image of the solution, bathing that new image in a sense of absolute belief and expectancy.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What are the practical, real-life takeaways of this screen? It's so easy to dismiss this as mere daydreaming, right? Like, how does playing in an imaginary mental theater actually alter our physical reality, our bodies, and our ingrained daily habits?
Well, it alters reality by fundamentally rewiring our subconscious programming. Let's look at a really grinded example from the source text regarding habit control. There was a woman who was a chronic dieter. She used her mental screen to visualize a giant table loaded with junk food, and she mentally drew a massive red X right through it. Then she visualized a table filled with high-protein, healthy foods, glowing with a beautiful golden light, and she placed a large golden check mark over it. By repeatedly visualizing this specific scene in alpha, she actually changed her subconscious cravings. She successfully lost 26 pounds. She quite literally used her mind to rewrite her body's physical impulses. This brings us to another really vital component of the method. Does the internal language we use actually matter at this deep level? The short answer is absolutely yes. When we are wide awake up in beta, our logic acts as a shield. We filter things out. But when we drop down into the alpha state, our defenses are totally down. The brain is no longer a subtle interpreter. It takes what we say to it quite literally.
Because of this wide-open receptivity, our words have a profound impact. Take this famous affirmation, adapted from the pioneer Emile Coué. Every day, in every way, I am getting better, better, and better. When you deliberately deliver these words to yourself while resting in that deep, relaxed alpha state, your mind accepts them as absolute commands. Your body's physical healing processes, which are so often blocked by our unconscious negative thoughts and our daily stress, are suddenly given the green light to fully activate and repair.
So far, we've mostly talked about the self, right? Our own habits, our own health, our own memory. But what happens when this intense inner focus expands outward? What happens when we take this highly trained, laser-focused imagination and point it at the world around us?
This introduces a fascinating concept Silva calls effective sensory projection, or ESP. Now, the source material carefully demystifies this. It is absolutely not presented as magic or something spooky and supernatural. Instead, it is explained as a perfectly natural extension of the human imagination. By entering these incredibly deep levels of mind, students are trained to project their awareness far beyond their physical bodies. They use this highly tuned intuition to deeply empathize and to intuitively sense the conditions, the health, and the needs of other people, often gathering specific information that completely defies traditional logic. And all of this leads directly into the broader, deeply thought-provoking philosophy of the text. The core idea is this: the physical evolution of our brain, it's done. We have all the cellular hardware we are ever going to get. But the vast, staggering potential of our mind, our true ability to connect, to heal, to intuit, and to shape reality itself is only just beginning to be unlocked. Which leaves us with one final, deeply powerful question to conclude our explainer today. If your mind truly holds the power to reshape your habits, your health, and your everyday reality, what will you project onto your mental screen today? The architecture of your mind is sitting there, waiting for you. It is simply up to you to count down, tune in, and take control.